Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, February 28th Budget Workshop Meeting of the Wall Township Board of Education. Let's please rise for the flag salute. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask our board secretary to please give our sunshine statement and do our roll call.
Yes, this is the Wall Township Board of Education meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meeting Act was provided by notice to the CoStar, Asbury Park Press, Township Clerk's Office, the Wall Township Public Schools, Township Administration Office, and the Board Administration Office on January 26, 2023. I'll take a roll call. Mr. Adnesio.
Here.
Mr. Buffa.
Here.
Ms. DiGiovanni.
Here.
Ms. Hodnett.
I get a little while before it gets.
She is unable to attend this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Malif.
Here.
Mr. Nasser.
Here.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Here.
Mr. Wondrak. Ms. Stites.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, prior to starting our board workshop on the budget, which I'm looking forward to, we're going to open the floor for public comment for school-related issues.
Seeing none.
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall Township. I just want to mention that your agenda has nothing attached. And I think what would be nice is for the public and for people at home to know exactly where you're at in the process, what the number looks like. I know it's your first budget meeting, but you have probably close to an $84 million budget plus $66 million, and you got nothing here. So that's the first thing. I will say Oprah Machine is one of the best things ever. Now that I started posting things on Oprah Machine, I'm starting to get some responses, phone calls from people, which I've never gotten before. So for people listening, go to Oprah Machine, go under Wall Township, go under other towns and see what they're doing. I've put in a lot of Oprahs to Mr. Smythe in particular. What is going on with the mic here? Can you fix that? And we need to start getting information back. Ms. Stites, I know I've asked you this question. I've already asked it to Ralph Adonisio. What we're wondering is if Mr. Smythe ever agreed to be interviewed for any of the 3 investigations for the Central School trailers. One was for the Mr. Cram that had no backup and lots of lies in it. The second one was for the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office, and I've specifically asked that somebody from the Prosecutor's Office allow Brian and the board to demo the trailers during an open criminal investigation. I've never heard anything back. Did Brian pick up the phone because he was doing all the work himself, basically, and Mr. Nasser, I think, was helping? Did you call up and say, I know we got a criminal investigation going on. Can I demo the trailers? Because I know Kathleen DiGiovanni would know that. You cannot demo the biggest piece of what you're investigating during an open criminal investigation. And the third was Mr. Scarillo's office, and that investigation doesn't have anything attached, doesn't say who was interviewed. When I did speak to Mr. Scarillo, he had said that Mr. Smythe was not willing to be interviewed. So we should all know that if he did not agree to be interviewed, because he's being deposed, and these are all questions that he's going to be asked. And, you know, if you don't know the answer to that, or if he's not answering you, you should put him out on leave. We got enough people on leave, but I'd rather have him on leave. I put in, what is going on with the microphone? Can you fix this? Can you put this on pause? Can you stop the clock? It's like so frustrating. Hello? Is it? I'd like to get a little time back. You know, I keep losing my train of thought here. It's still doing it. All right. I put in information for the school excess liability fund, which is where we have a lot of claims going through. What's weird is Brian Smythe is voting on his own claims. And I'm going to try and find out why we don't have these claims, and I'm going to give them to Kathleen DiGiovanni. We're paying $100,000 for one gentleman, and I saw one, it was a staff member, and I can't figure out why isn't it on the civil lawsuit claims. But, you know, we're giving out $100,000 to one person, $100,000 to another person, and Brian is the one voting on it. 2 people vote on it, and Brian's one of them. It's ridiculous. I mean, this whole JIF thing. So Craig called me from the JIF because I CC'd the comptroller's office. I think he needs to investigate Wall on these claims and why Brian Smythe is the person that's saying that this gentleman is getting $100,000. And I'm going to go back 10 years. Another one is for another person. They get $43,000. Then there's one that just says Wall BOE $100,000. And Brian is also the person for that. Then we got another one. We have $14 million paid out, and it says various members. We should know who the various members are, and if Wall's one of them, and if Brian's the one signing off on them. So everybody, please go to my YouTube channel, Wall, BOE, Betsy Oprah's Education, and also go to the Oprah machine and start looking. We are paying $11,000 for a student to go to Central Regional, but Central Regional has no documentation whatsoever. They replied to me, Mr. Smythe did not. They got nothing on file for this child. So I don't know what's going on with that, but the DOE is going to have to step in why we're paying and nobody has a record of the student for $11,000. Mr.
Thank you.
Wondrak is just now walking in.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Do we have anyone else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close the floor for public comment this evening, and we'll be moving into the budget workshop.
Thank you, Ms. Stites. Good evening, everyone. Budget workshops are sessions for the full board to meet as a whole and discuss the 2023-2024 school budget, and this session is in addition to the discussions that take place in committee meetings where no more than 4 board members meet with school administration on a monthly basis. The budget workshop is held in public because it includes the full board and therefore provides an opportunity for the public to observe the board as they work on the budget. The budget workshops are working meetings of the board which are held in public. Budget workshop meetings are not presentations of the budget, and most documents being referenced, reviewed, and discussed have not been made available to the public and are not available at the meetings. It is important to note that to date, state aid figures have not yet been released. State aid figures can impact this process greatly. At the March 14th Board of Education business meeting, the board will be asked to approve a tentative 2023-2024 school budget for the purpose of submitting the budget to the NJDOE for review and approval prior to advertising the proposed budget that will be presented at a public meeting and voted on by the board. Work on the budget will continue after the approval of the tentative budget, with the final budget being presented at a public hearing. Our next budget workshop is scheduled for March 21st. The public hearing on the 2023-2024 school budget is scheduled for April 25th, 2023. And at that time, a budget presentation will be made to the public, and there will be public comment specific to the budget. The board will then vote on the proposed budget. Before we get started this evening, I would like to share with you the priorities of this upcoming year's budget as we move through the process. Our goal is to create a budget that supports the following. 1, curriculum updates and programmatic changes rooted in evidence-based practices and brain-based research. Number 2, student wellness must continue to be at the forefront of our decision-making. K-12 evidence-based practices will be implemented. Number 3, continued investment in our technology infrastructure and device replacement strategy. Number 4, prioritization of capital improvement projects not addressed in the referendum will be identified. Number 5, the current year is the last year of the WTASC contract expiring June 30, 2023, and as such, it is a priority of the board to move forward with negotiations. This is an exciting time in Wall Township. I would be remiss if I did not reiterate my gratitude to the Wall Township voters for their approving the referendum this past December. The passing of this referendum enables us to move forward with district initiatives at a much faster pace. Thank you again. The overarching goal of this budget is to establish strong foundations from a curriculum and instruction perspective, from a facilities perspective, and from a community perspective. There will be a common theme on creating a strong foundation as we build into the future. At this point, I would like to invite Mr. Smythe to our discussion. Mr. Smythe?
Oh, nervous to talk on the mic, but yes, this is our first budget workshop. Just provide the Board of Education some information along with your agenda. There was the budget calendar that has been updated. The goal following this budget workshop presentation, we will have the detailed budgets on a preliminary working document provided to the Board of Education by the end of this week. We have some I wouldn't say gaps to fill, but we do have some lines that we need to review in further detail because along with the calendar, I do have the attachment that shows where we currently stand with revenues and our appropriations. But with regard to the budget calendar, you know, we're anticipating that we'll get state aid notices by the end of this week. That'll be following this budget workshop meeting, which is on the calendar as the 28th. That same date, we anticipate again having the budget on a preliminary basis provided to the Board of Education for further review, and that would be the detailed line items for the budget. And hopefully we'll have positive information with regard to the state aid notice that we anticipate receiving. Again, we have a deadline to submit a tentative budget to the Department of Education on March 20th. So the goal is to approve a tentative budget on March 14th. Again, that's allows the district to submit their budget to the Department of Education for compliance review. We do have the ability to revise the budget up to and including the public hearing, which is scheduled for April 25th. And before the public hearing on the 25th, we currently have a budget meeting scheduled for March 21, but we may have some conflicts, so we're going to be polling the board for some other available dates that the full board can be in attendance, because that's going to be a pretty important budget workshop meeting as well. So that, moving forward with the, we also have the committee meetings that are included on the calendar. We have next week, March 7th, and we also have April 4th. If there's a need to schedule additional F&F committee meetings, we will, but the only anticipated change on the calendar would be the second budget workshop meeting, which is currently scheduled for the 21st of March. So, with regard to the Current status of the revenues and appropriations, you'll notice that the revenues as they currently stand are the same. That's not a typo, they are the same as our current year at $82,200,000. However, we do have our anticipated increase with the tax levy currently projected at 2%, which is $1.4 million. I will note that we have available to the district bank cap in the amount of $299,000. And that's noted in the top left-hand corner under bank cap, that is available for use in the 23-24 school year. Our other revenue sources are considered flat at this time. Again, it'll be updated when we receive our state aid notice. The one increase is in the area of tuition. We are anticipating an increase in our tuition for students being received into the district. The one significant change in the revenues is that last year we budgeted over $2 million in capital projects, so $2 million, and we funded all the capital projects from the capital reserve account. So none of the capital projects included in the budget were funded through either the tax levy, state aid, or any of the other miscellaneous revenues. It was funded solely from a drawdown from our capital reserve account. This budget, as it currently stands, includes the same. Currently, we've estimated just over $1 million, $1.1 million for capital improvements, and we'll have a capital reserve drawdown of $1.1 million. So even though there's an increase in the tax levy of over $1 million at the 2%, we're reducing the drawdown on a capital reserve, and therefore, and as well as a reduction in our use of budgeted fund balance, maintenance reserve, which brings the total revenues to $82.2 million. But again, those numbers will be further reviewed and adjusted as necessary to balance the budget, and as we further discuss in the F&F committee. On the appropriation side, again, we break it out by salaries. We currently have a deficit, or our appropriations exceed our revenues by almost $4 million. We're at like $3.9 million. We have non-salaried accounts that we have that need further review due to the increase, but the most significant line item or group of line items is in the area of personal benefits. We have discussed this at the F&F committee. It was reported at the last Board of Education meeting. You know, the post-pandemic is impacting not just Wall Township, but all school districts or anybody managing a health benefit plan, because I think there was a number of services that may have been delayed that are now actually come to fruition, at least from a provider for health benefits. So we've seen a significant increase in the current year that is projected to continue for next year, but again, we're still working with the health benefit broker to further refine those numbers and find alternative sources of revenue for that. We do have emergency reserve that we are able to utilize for increase in health benefit cost. In addition, they do allow a health benefit waiver. However, that amount that we may be eligible for has not yet been determined and provided to us by the Department of Education. So there's a number of things that are still going to have to be worked into the budget, both state aid notices, available waivers that are still being worked on within the district, as well as waiting on information from the State Department of Education. Any questions either on the calendar or on the summary of the revenues and appropriations? And again, as we, on a weekly basis, when we provide updates to the budget, we will update the summarized report on revenues and appropriations for the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smythe. Last year, we started working through the budget workshop process in a thematic nature. We're going to continue the theme-based approach to our budget process, and it is my pleasure to turn the program over right now to Ms. Bond so she can share really the workings of her budget for the director, as the Director of Special Services for the Special Services Department. So Ms. Bond.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about the proposed special services budget. And I do just have to take a moment before I start to thank all of the staff members within the department who truly make it great, and a special thank you to my two supervisors, Dr. Samaha and Ms. Roberts, who helped me to really prepare this budget this evening, and for being here. The proposed budget really works to support the entire department, and it supports the mission and the principles of our department. The heart of our work is truly in caring and supporting students, and every action that we take must align with the New Jersey Administrative Code and federal regulations. So there's a lot of heart behind what we do, and there are also a lot of laws behind what we do. So the first slide demonstrates a lot of the factors and the guiding forces that were used to create this budget. We do support learners ages 3 through 21, and the proposed budget supports all of the programs that we have within district. It also supports the staffing and the curriculum that we are required to use within those programs, and the extraordinary services that students require. You can see in one of the slides the continuum of service where our students are educated, and it's listed from the least to most restrictive, the least restrictive being the general education classroom. And as we move through this discussion, we're going to talk a little bit more about our self-contained programs and our out-of-district programs, which are on the more restrictive side of that continuum. It is important to note that the New Jersey Administrative Code requires certain staff-to-student ratios, which is a driving force of how we staff our programs. So you can see there a table that outlines, so for example, an in-class resource class, which is a general education classroom, has a general education teacher and a special education teacher. The elementary level, you can have 8 special education students in that setting. At the secondary, it goes up to 10. There is no availability for fluctuation on that. If we go over the 8 students in an elementary and we need 9 students in that classroom, we are required to open another section of that. You can see in the table where it talks about the pull-out resource settings, there's a little more fluctuation there. That's a small group special education setting that's taught by just a special educator. And you can see at the elementary level, you can have 6 students, and then in parentheses there, it shows 7 to 9. If we go to 7 to 9, we are required to add a paraprofessional to that setting. If we go over the 9, we are required to open an additional section of that. So I just wanted to take the time to talk about that because I do think it's really important in understanding how we staff our programs. The proposed budget does support some of the goals of our department for the upcoming school year. One of the goals is we plan to create a new emotional regulation impairment class, ERI, at WIS. We have some 5th graders that are currently in this program that continue to require it and will be moving up to WIS next year. Some are WAL resident students, and 2 of which are currently tuition-in students. So what that means is that they live in a neighboring town. Their town is unable to provide the education that they require, so that township pays tuition to Wall Township to educate their students. So we are happy to have them because we enjoy helping a neighboring town to support their students, and it also helps to fund some of our programs with their, with the tuition that they pay. Another effort of our department is to look at providing more integrated related services into our elementary self-contained programs. We have found that many of our students have sensory needs that cause them to have attentional difficulties and to not always be available for learning. So if we can have the occupational therapists and the speech therapists push into the classroom and support them within the classroom, it's kind of a win-win, in my opinion. First of all, it helps the student to be able to practice the skill in the classroom as opposed to in an isolated small group setting.
And that is truly our ultimate goal. In order to have mastered a goal, you want them to be practicing it within the classroom. The other wonderful thing about this model is that the teacher can witness firsthand what the occupational therapists are doing, what the speech therapists are doing, and they can add those skills to their repertoire, which only further benefits the students. Yet another goal is the proper storage of special education files. We are required to maintain these documents, some for 7 years and some for 100 years. So it's quite a task to maintain all of the paper files, and we've determined that digitally storing these files is really what is necessary. So the proposed budget does support that initiative of scanning our graduating seniors' files so that we have access to them digitally in the future. We do have parents and graduating students who have graduated knocking on the special services door on a regular basis, asking for their files. They need them for a variety of things throughout their life. So for us to have them at our fingertips in a digital manner is a wonderful thing for the people who are asking for them, because they can get them quickly, and for us to know that we're being in compliance with everything that we need. And then also we would like to purchase some new tools for our speech therapists, in particular to focus on some students who are having some difficulty with social communication and being able to properly communicate when they're in kind of emotionally charged conflicts. In addition to the 4th edition of the Connors for our school psychologists, we are required to continually keep up with a new edition when a new edition comes out. So the Connors 4th edition is coming out, and our school psychologists do use that when evaluating students with attentional difficulties in particular. You can see on the next slide all of our current self-contained programs that the budget supports. You can see the ERI program at WIS is in bold because that will be a new anticipated program for next year. So we start as early as with our 3-year-olds at primary school with self-contained and integrated programs. We move into elementary. Those programs continue on through WIS and the high school. You will see at the high school we also have the SLE program, which is a program that supports our students who may remain with us until they're 21, out on job sites with job coaches, and really learning those kinds of skills in a scaffolded approach. So in addition to supporting our in-district programs, a bulk of the special services budget does go to out-of-district placement. And I do just want to note the care and caution in which we use when making a decision to place a student in an out-of-district placement. We do value a student being educated in their neighborhood and community school, but there is sometimes circumstances where an out-of-district placement is truly the least restrictive environment for that child, and we are obligated to provide that. I am happy to share that there is a downward trend in our out-of-district numbers. You can see back in 2010, 2011, the out-of-district numbers were much higher. With the creation and the maintenance of the self-contained programs that we have within the district, we have truly been able to educate many more of our students in district, and we have been able to bring those tuition-in students in. We are up to 13 now, and we're really happy about that. So last year at this time, we had 34 out-of-district students. We are at 2 less than that right now. We are at 32. So as we move into next year's budget, we are continuing to budget for those 32 students. Something that's important to note about this graduating cohort is that a bill, S3434, is in place, which allows students who would have typically aged out, meaning they're 21 this June, and this would have been their last year of school. They are allowed 1 additional year of school due to learning loss from COVID. So in that 32 students, we have 4 students who would have aged out at 21, but will remain with us for 1 more year, which is wonderful for them to be able to continue acquiring the skills in which they need to move on to adulthood. The other nice thing is that in January of next year, we will be able to apply for reimbursement for any funds that were needed to educate those 4 students because it was due to the bill S3434. So that will sunset this year, and next year, we will go back to pre-COVID rules of at 21, you age out of our program. So last year, we did budget for 34 students because at the time, that is what we had. Due to movement and programmatic changes, we have reduced that by 2. So that does result in a bit of a savings from what we anticipated we would have paid last year. There's also tuition adjustments, which Mr. Smythe kind of referenced before in regards to our tuition in. Same goes for out-of-district placements. We anticipate what some of those budget increases might be. Sometimes we're right on, sometimes the contract comes in and it's less, and then that's good news for us. The next set of slides focuses on the tuition in special education students. As we mentioned earlier, those students do not live in Wall Township, but they are educated in our programs. That is a process that typically starts with director to director. They will reach out to me. They will let me know that they have a student that they are looking for another placement. Our child study team becomes involved. We observe the student. We really do a lot of work reviewing records and observing to ensure that we are the right fit for that child before we have them come our way. In 21-22, we had 9 students tuition in. We increased that to 10 starting this school year in September. And from September till now, we've added 3 more students. So that has increased the tuition and revenue a little over $100,000 at this moment. So, and I think I said this last year, and it's really holds true. I had 2 calls today from other directors. I mean, we are known out there to, as a school, to contact if some of the smaller districts are struggling to maintain their students. So the downward out-of-district combined with the upward tuition in students is something our department is really proud of, and I think it speaks to the quality of the programs that we offer here in Wall Township. And, I do need to take a moment to thank this board and Dr. Handerhan and, Mr. Smythe for always supporting the Special Services Department, our staff, the work we do, and I think it shows in our product. And then the last 2 slides are just a list of the many services that we offer. I certainly don't need to read through all of them, but I think it's important to note the various types of services that we offer to student evaluations we offer, the specialized programming, equipment, extraordinary services. There's a variety of things that the special services budget goes to support. And that's really all I have for today. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Madam President.
Mr. Anisio.
So, Ms. Bond, I know, well, one, you guys do a fantastic job, and I've gone to the meetings, and I mean, the parents are always so pleased with everything everybody does. I mean, it's just a fantastic program. And I know over the last several years, you've taken a look at the program and seen if there's other things you can bring back in-house. Did you look at anything this year? Or is there anything you think coming up in the next couple of years that maybe we should start planning for now that we could bring in? Or?
Yes, I actually have spent some time this year going to observe some of our students who are in out-of-district placements because I think I need to start there and know who those students are and what we could do to support them here. So there are some conversations. I don't know if it necessarily needs to change any of the programs we have. I would like to look at, as we move into, as we're creating the program for WIS, right, what will we need at the high school to continue that program? So we are consistently looking at that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
You mentioned neighboring districts. Can you give us an idea of what that kind of I guess geographically encompasses? Is that just Monmouth County, Northern Ocean County?
I feel like we actually have some from I don't want to say it's just Monmouth because it truly isn't. I think it really depends on the district. They're transporting the child, they're paying the tuition for all of that. So sometimes it does happen that it's a little bit further out than you would expect.
Ms. Bond? Yes. So in terms of how we're storing our postgraduate paperwork now, is that paper that we're using? And at what if we're going to be starting with the AccuScan, is there a plan, we're gonna start now with the kids that are graduating now? Is there any plan to roll back?
Yes.
Just curious.
Yes, no, good question. So we're planning on doing the graduating seniors and then 4 or 5 years back, depending on what our quote is and what I, can work into the budget. But so slowly, we're hoping to get a lot of the current paper files that we have digitized. And then the hope would be that, you can take off the 4 years previously, and then it would just kind of be working on graduated seniors. But that will take us several years to get there.
Mr. Mallett?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Bond, I just want to ask, you said that you got a couple calls today for tuition students. Do we actively try to recruit them, or do we just wait till they come to us?
I have to say, I haven't had to do much recruiting. I do get, and I go to all of the Monmouth County directors' meetings. Once a month, the directors meet. So we do have an opportunity to talk, and that sometimes people will come up to us or will share about a student that they're struggling with. But it is a requirement for anyone who's looking, any director who's looking for an out-of-district placement. You're required to use that least to most restrictive continuum. So you're required to look at other public school placements before you can look at a private school with disabilities. So it's very frequent that we just get emails amongst our group, because that's step one. If no one bites on the email, then they can take the next step to look for a more specialized program.
Do we have any other questions? Oh, Mr. Mondrak?
The students who are 21 and they're going to stay for another year, what kind of skill sets do we give to them to get them ready? Because obviously they're not going to go to Yale.
So the students who stay past 21 are students, some of them are in out-of-district placements, some of them are here at the high school and might be participating in that SLE program that I spoke about, so learning job skills. We could be supporting them to try to find employment so that they can have a positive post-secondary outcome. Some of them may be waiting for a day program or working with their adult life, and their parents are working that out. So we kind of continue the skills in which they're working on. They receive their full program, their related services. We do consider there are some students who may stay and may not need to come for, English, PE, math. They may not need to continue those, but we do want them to continue the job portion because those are the skills that they still need to be learning.
It's got to be hard on them.
And their families. Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Bond. We appreciate everything that you're doing. We're very proud of our special education and special services staff, and certainly our students. We wish them all well, and the board is certainly very happy to be supportive of anything that we can do to continue celebrating our students and doing everything we can to keep our program right at the head of the class, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bond. It's my pleasure to now introduce Ms. Tiffany Steiner, our Director of Intervention Services and Student Wellness, to share with you the budgetary work in her respective areas. So, Ms. Steiner, turning to you.
Thank you, Dr. Handerhan. And thank you to the board for having me this evening. I do feel very fortunate that I have this time to present the proposed intervention and student wellness budget. In beginning to speak about the budget, I don't want to be remiss and forget to thank all of those that I've worked with this year who've really contributed to the programs that are placed within this budget. And that would really include our school counselors, our interventionists, our nurses, our supervisors, our homeless liaisons. They've all given me a lot of feedback and input into programs that would best serve the needs of our children. So as we begin to look at the budget, I think it's important to point out what are the goals for the intervention and student wellness programs. Our goal is to service the whole child. We want to be able to provide for the full scope of a child's developmental needs. And we do know that there has been interruptions to those developmental needs because of COVID. We're looking at their academic, their social, their emotional, behavioral, physical, mental health, and their situational circumstances that influence their ability to learn each day. So we're using a lens which is called a trauma-informed lens, and we're making decisions that are sensitive to each child's unique situation and things that they encounter within their families. The services in our budget are going to be framed in levels of support. I know we've spoken about this before, and we've called it multi-tiered systems of supports. I think it's easiest to say there's 3 levels. We have 3 levels in how we support children. We have supports that we give all children, we have supports that we give some children, and then there's additional individual children who need those extra supports. So what we're going to be doing is really looking to frame a program that meets children at their level and is able to give them what they need, using research-based practices and programming, and using information to make sure that we're placing children with the level of care that they need. So what is that information? We look at data, attendance, medical documentations, and things of that nature. Some factors that are considered when developing an intervention in student wellness budget is featured on one of our slides. I think it's important to know that most of the programs are funded through grants. We have our Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and we also have our ESSER grants that contribute to this budget. Another factor that's important is that much of the population served has needs that are ever-changing, right? And that's kind of typical of children to begin with, and then you throw in all of the layers of what the world has offered in the last couple of years. So we go in with a lens knowing that we need to be flexible and we need to be fluid. So our services need to meet changes that need quickly, and last year we would say pivot. We often have to pivot our services and make sure that we do it in a manner which our programs are seamless, so children get what they need. And a best example of this would be an example of a student who presently would get counseling in school, who now has some type of adverse situation that may require out-of-school care. And with that care, knowing that we will still be providing the educational component. So that would be one example of us being flexible and fluid. Finally, there are situations and factors in this budget that are grounded, like Mrs. Bond had stated in her presentation, they're grounded in law. There are ways that we must respond to different needs. And these are found in laws that, like our 504 laws, our McKinney-Vento laws, and even our anti-bullying Bill of Rights that deals with HIB situations. So with that being said, I want to start by discussing our first program that is in this proposed budget, which is with respect to academics. In curriculum and instruction, we're looking to implement an intervention reading program K-5 that is going to be in alignment with the movement in K-1 to the science of reading. Our goal is, in aligning to the science of reading, is also to make sure that we're including some multisensory strategies that are unique to some of what our students would need. So in K-5, we're looking at a program from the Institute of Multisensory Education. It's research-based and it's rich with foundational reading skills. In 9 to 12, we're looking at an assessment platform. Presently, we have an assessment platform in our K-8, and we're looking to extend into 9 to 12. And an assessment platform that we're looking at, it's called Linkit, and what it would do is assess our students on standard-specific skills and content so that we can take that information and turn it into action. We turn it into action by using it to drive instruction. So students in our general education classes who are beginning to struggle, we know the areas of struggle and they know the suggested best practices to help them. And then students who are identified to need more academic assistance, we know to use our response to intervention program to meet their needs, which would consist of having a push-in teacher who would deliver services and then monitor student progress. Lastly, we're looking to implement some student intervention software. Presently, we do have a student intervention software system. This would be a system K-12, and it kind of achieves exactly what Mrs. Bond had suggested, that how we need to have a storage place so that we have digital records. These records would really be outside of special education. These would be more for our students who are receiving intervention and referral services, who have intervention plans, who have 504 plans. The next priority in our budget that I wanted to speak about has to do with the social emotional learning. And we are looking to systematically roll out a program called 7 Mindsets. 7 Mindsets was selected by the counseling team. They were looking for something, going from a homegrown program, which we presently have, to a program that is grounded in research and best practices, was a direction that our district wanted to take, God bless you, to really have a consistent messaging and consistent experience and instruction in those soft skills going from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So our 7 Mindsets program, it will be rolled out in a way that it'll be very intense through K-8, and then we'll use it more for our Tier 2 and our Tier 3 supports. So those are like counseling sessions. We would use the materials there. And Tier 3 would be like individual lessons, like when we do HIB remediation. What is interesting about this 7 Mindsets program is that it is based on an exhaustive study of the world's happiest and most successful people, and what characteristics do they have in common. And there's themes that would go through each month, like themes like everything is possible, passion first, we're all connected. These themes and ideas that the counselors would provide direct instruction in, but we also would have things like parent newsletters, parent presentations. We have every morning, I get my morning mindset from 7 Mindsets that has a beautiful quote to start the day. There's morning announcements embedded in this program. So the program isn't in isolation. The program is for the whole school community. So it really shifts the culture and the way of thinking for our children. So if you can see on our slide, we are purchasing at $40,000. We are purchasing this product with a license that would end in 6/30/26. This purchase also includes professional development. We're starting our my administrators and counselors have their books and they're reading. We have the company is sending a consultant to meet with us, so that'll be a next step. And then we're really going to frame out next year of which mindset we want to do each month to make sure that we implement the program with fidelity. Finally, my last slide as it relates to student wellness is a bunch of different services that we want to make sure we either maintain or we're required to maintain. There was an article sent to me today, and it discussed the number of children who are, visiting, the increase in children going to the ER because of mental health emergencies. And it really opens my eyes to the fact that although COVID seems in the past, we still have a lot of stress in our present situation. We have a lot of negativity in our social media. We have children who are very dependent on social media because that was their method of communicating with the world when the world was so small for them. So we also have a lot of financial stress, and we're seeing that with a lot of our children whose families have lost their permanent housing and they're in temporary housing. So with all of those stresses, we want to make sure that we have solid counseling services in place, not just through a program, but also through community agencies and very specific levels of care. So some of these levels of care you would think of are some of the things that I know Dr. Handerhan loves, like our therapy dogs. We have a program from Integrated Cares Concepts that we will be offering parents even this year about social media and putting up those boundaries to keep our children safe. We're looking in our school counseling services to really have a blend of community, to also make sure that we're giving parents what they need, because it does take a village. As you look down, you'll see that there is a budget set aside for our school anti-bullying specialists and initiatives. This is necessary. Our HIB laws are ever-changing, and we need to make sure that we're always making the best decisions because we're knowledgeable of what the law requires us to do. If you look over to the other side, we are looking to do some updates with our health curriculum. We will not be changing any content, but we will be moving some of our topics from 9th grade and 11th grade and switching around. And that's really based on feedback from the teachers and how they feel the content is best presented. We also have our nursing budget that remains pretty consistent from year to year. As you can see within our nursing budget, this is really our from Band-Aids to AED supplies. We have looked this year very hard at some of our larger items that are in this budget, and we're making sure that we're kind of pacing ourselves in replacing these items so that we're not hit one year with some large purchases. We're also factoring into this budget that we are looking for our nurses to receive more professional development on our Genesis portal. It has a lot of features that they would like to activate to make sure that we're securing records, student records within the Genesis system, such as like our A45 records. Our McKinney-Vento budget is also sourced through the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is Title I. You know, these are our services for our children who, like I said, no longer have permanent housing, and we must be able to, provide for them the essentials that they need to be successful. And this could mean transportation from their temporary housing to Wall Township schools, as well as before and after care services. Within McKinney-Vento, we always have to look through a lens of how can we remove barriers. There's enough barriers that they're experiencing on the home front that we want to remove any barriers here to make sure that they get the same experience that other children get. So a barrier could be having to pay for an instrument for the music program. So those are items within this budget that we look to remove those barriers so that children can all have access. And finally, my last item in the budget has to do with home instruction. And this is something that we do have to provide. Children get sick all the time with mental health needs on the rise. We know that, many of our, inpatient programs or our intense IOP outpatient programs, they do have that characteristic of a child going to school there all day and getting the therapeutic needs met, but also we are obligated to also provide all of those academic and instructional needs on site for those children. So I'm hoping that I adequately explained all the components to this proposed budget. I really want to thank you for your ongoing support. I want to thank the board and Dr. Handerhan, the administration. We certainly have work ahead of us, but we certainly have also accomplished a lot over the last couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Steiner. Do we have any questions from the members of the board for Mrs. Steiner? I have a couple quick ones. Okay, if you don't mind.
I don't.
My first question was when you were mentioning the 9 through 12 standards-based universal screener and progress monitor, the platforms. Are those platforms going to help you target individual students, or is it more trends across?
It's both. It's
Okay.
both. The systems are pretty elaborate. It is specific to students, so as a universal screener, it's really a universal assessment that shows us where the progress is of each child. And then we really, as we look through the data, we have kind of cutoff scores where we know that a child would need more support and fall into a new category of support, such as like a push-in RTI teacher to come into the classroom.
So it starts to get really specific.
It gets really specific.
That's great.
We even have the ability to take the information and form groups and say, like, this group will be working on these 2 standards within this time frame, and then we have embedded in the program like some mini assessments of just those standards, which are a few questions, but we use that to monitor progress and make sure that the instructional practices are meeting the need of the child.
My second question is regarding the social emotional learning programs, the 7 mindsets. That looks great. I just pulled it up here. When are we targeted to start that program? And then are we looking to, for example, when you start, it talks about the first mindset, for example, everything is possible. Is that something that we're planning on doing district-wide at every school so that as a district, we're kind of all moving together?
So for the first year, we're planning on K-8. There are program elements that will be going on at the high school, but it won't be a school-wide. We're going to age our 9th graders up and then use the program as a transitional piece, and we really did that because we want to, progress in a way that we know we're going to be successful. And instructional time is so important at the high school level that we want to make sure that as we work through the program, that we incorporate it into the right areas. And the right areas could be through the morning media show. We've already had some of these discussions where it might not necessarily look like a full lesson, but it might look like an introduction to a mindset through the media show, and then some follow-up activities in the different classes.
That's great. Hopefully, maybe as that happens, if you keep obviously in communication with the board, then maybe the board can also share that information out, initiatives, so that our whole community can understand what we're doing.
Mrs.
As a
Stites,
group.
I have a book for you right here.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have questions?
I do.
Mr. Nasser?
Thank you both for the informative presentation. This came up a couple of days ago because there was an article that popped up in my feed about the tutoring and the rapid learning acceleration programs that the state DOE has out to bid right now. Is there any more information, or are they coordinating with local districts to figure out how it fits in to what we're doing here in the district?
That,
I know it's very new. Yeah.
I can respond to that a little bit. School districts, I was actually communicating with someone from the DOE today, and in order for the school districts to, at first blush, it's providing services through vendors. There have been questions, can school districts harness the money to provide the tutoring for their students? In order to do that, the school district would have to become a vendor through the New Jersey Department of Education. So that was what was shared with us today, and there are a bunch of us pursuing more information on that. So I just wanted to chime in, because that is up to the minute stuff.
Thank you. I know the state is sometimes less than forthcoming about what's coming out of Trenton, and we're caught on our heels, but thank you for that update.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mrs. Steiner. I know you're working really hard. I know the whole staff is, and student wellness is certainly a huge concern that we have, and we appreciate everything that you're doing and look forward to updates.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Steiner. It's my pleasure to now introduce to you our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Jennifer McCann. Ms. McCann will present a broad overview of curricular programming in the district, and also she'll be focusing on not just district funding, but also the updates on the grant funds, as we also provided last year. This would be the ESSER monies, the CARES Act money. And Ms. McCann, I'm going to turn the program over to you.
Budget that's sitting in front of you. It really has been, and I talked about it at our last meeting, a team effort. We started back in, it's on. Oh, no, it's not. Here we go.
We started back in October in our supervisors' meetings talking about the needs moving forward. And curriculum instruction is really embedded in 4 different areas that our budget focuses on: programs, curriculum, instructional resources, and professional development. And they all get very intertwined and interrelated as we go through the process. So we are required from the NJDOE to conduct a 5-year curriculum cycle, which holds us true to looking at our curriculum documents, revising them, making updates, and making sure that we're current with the instructional practices that we are incorporating in our curriculum documents. But at that same time, we also, in those conversations that we have with the supervisors and with our departments at the secondary level, we talk about ways in which that we can enhance our current programming. So we, for the upcoming summer, have some curriculum development that's going to be taking place. At the K-8 level, we will be focusing on reading and writing at K-5. This has been a huge initiative this year within the district to expose our administrators and our teachers to the science of reading. The science of reading, for those of you who do not know, is a brain-based research that indicates how students effectively learn to read. It is 20 years plus worth of research that has really come to the forefront and become a national trend in ensuring that we are providing our students with the appropriate instructional practices to make them successful readers. So we have started training our teachers. We trained our administrators in-house on a different topics. But overall, this initiative makes us have to shift with the current resources that we currently are using in our classrooms, and requires us to rewrite our curriculum this coming summer. In addition to that, again, programmatically, enhancing our technology curriculum that we currently have at our K-8 level with our technology teachers. Our library and media, now that we have the opportunity to implement and have library media specialists for each of our buildings. We're taking it very seriously in terms of the type of programming that we can incorporate within the library media specialists and the opportunities the students have there. And in addition to that, New Jersey did just approve some new New Jersey media literacy standards that we are required to start implementing as well. In addition to that, we reviewed our current ESL program and curriculum documents, and they also need some revisions. At the high school level, we have some science courses, biology, physics, chemistry, as well as a new course that we are proposing this year for our students, astronomy. And again, came off of conversations with the staff and the students as to what types of courses and electives they would like to see in their program. We also have special education courses at the high school level, primarily from the LLD classes that are going to require some revisions. And as I mentioned, elective courses. The other 2 courses that we're looking to implement this year are cybersecurity and economics. I also want to take the opportunity to discuss just one step further in the fact that, again, in talking about all of this, we do talk about what's best for all programs. And out of those conversations, as you are all aware, we had the situation this year where, due to scheduling conflicts and changes at the middle school, that our orchestra students were not provided the opportunity for their lessons as the band students currently are. So after multiple conversations with administrators, with the teachers, with the community, we have found a way to, which I'm happy to say, and I have to give it all to the intermediate school administrative staff, who really became very creative with their scheduling in order to make it happen. So we will be affording the opportunity for both band and orchestra students to receive their lessons in the upcoming school year. So I just wanted to give that little shout out. In addition, as I was mentioning, as we write curriculum and discuss curriculum, and we update it, there's a need for new adoptions of instructional resources. And those instructional resources can either be digital platforms or they could be textbook adoptions. So you'll notice in the documents that you have in front of you, some of the textbook adoptions that we're looking to make for the upcoming school year would be, again, that K-5 reading to ensure that our new instructional resources will match the science of reading and the initiative and focus that we feel is best for our students. We also are looking to purchase some new grade 7 civics resources, as well as resources for the new astronomy class, and also some new resources for biology, chemistry, and physics at the high school. We currently have a number of educational platforms that we do use as instructional resources throughout the course of the year. Although it looks like there's a lot on this slide, we actually trimmed that down from a huge list. And again, thank you to the supervisors and the administrators and the teachers for really taking the time to look at what they were using and what was really working within their classrooms. And now with being able to trim it down, we have also ensured that if they're an elementary resource, it will be an elementary resource for all 4 elementary schools. So if you are an Old Mill student, you will be getting the same digital platforms as a Central School student. At the middle school and high school level, there are some, depending on the department, that will cross over for both at a total secondary level, but some are specific to the middle school and some are specific to the high school. In addition, we do have professional platforms, and although they do not come out of the curriculum and instruction budget, I did feel as though because they are tied to things that we do from the curriculum and instruction department, I wanted to mention it. So we currently use a digital platform called OnCourse in the district, and that houses our evaluations, our lesson plans, our SGOs, and our PDPs, but it's a separate platform. And from a district level, we are required to submit data from these particular components to the state. So to have it in a separate platform when we could very easily use our current student information system, which if you are a parent in this district and you know, we use Genesis. Genesis houses an employee portal as well, which Tiffany was referring to earlier with the nurses. And within that employee portal, we can upload or input the teachers' lesson plans, their SGOs, and their PDPs. So this will become the new housing, the new platform where we'll be able to have all that information and everything will be in one spot. We also have another platform where our teachers submit their professional development requests. So if they're looking to go out for a workshop or they have an in-district workshop, it's a platform that they're able to, they go in, they record it, and it kicks out their need for a substitute to the Human Resources Department. Within Frontline, we also house our IEPs for the Special Services Department. And we are also looking to adopt, and we've talked about this at our CNI meetings, we currently have a District Evaluation Assessment Committee, which is called DEAC, who have been reviewing different evaluation models, teacher evaluation models, meaning right now, the tool that we use and rubric that we use to evaluate our teachers is the Danielson model. The state has an approved list of different models that we can choose from. So we have a committee who's coming to a very close end on making a decision as to which model they would like to use moving forward. And that model will then go in a particular evaluation platform where we will do all of our evaluations. We don't all just use textbooks and digital platforms. There are some other instructional supplies like workbooks and at the elementary level that we need for our Envision Math program. You'll notice that it's a 2-year commitment. The reason we went for a 2-year commitment, we had a current 6-year contract that expired. However, the Department of Ed is currently looking, it expires in June. The Department of Ed is currently looking at the ELA and math standards. So there is a possibility that some things may shift within content areas or at the department level. So it would behoove us, since our resource has expired, to change into a different textbook series. Not that I'm saying we would do that, but it would behoove us to do that instead of just keeping what we have until we know where the standards are going. So we are just moving forward with the 2-year commitment because most likely the state will have a decision for us by the end of this school year, fingers crossed. And then they'll give us an implementation plan as to when we need to update our curriculum, documents, and our resources. So that's why that's there. And as every year, at the secondary level, for any damaged textbooks or novels or things that we have in the classrooms, the schools budget for a textbook replacement. Professional development within the district, we have really started to, it was Dr. Handerhan who really committed to the fact that it's really important for not just us who are at this table or for the supervisors, but also for the teachers to really get out and go to different workshops and participate in their own professional learning. So with that, that's what that first bullet point is all about. It encompasses the directors, the principals, the assistant principals, the supervisors, and the teachers to have the opportunity to go out for either national conferences or local conferences, depending on their associations that they may be a part of, and or any little thing, meaning workshop, that may pop up that they're interested in attending. And because we will be moving towards a new evaluation tool, we will have to provide professional development to all of the administrators as well as the teachers. So this is like an estimated cost based off of the conversations that I had with the different vendors as to what professional development would be the cost for that professional development moving forward. Now, I know what you're all waiting for is how we have spent the grants or where we are with the grants. So as you are aware, as a result of COVID, the federal government did provide to all school districts 3 different grant opportunities. The first one was the CARES grant, and we had a total allocation of $249,369. The CARES grant, by federal law, was required to be exhausted by September of 2022. That money has been spent down to the penny. So you'll see on a subsequent slide the things that we did within the district in order to exhaust that money. Next came the ESSER II grant, which our total awarded amount was $1,073,837. And in that grant were subsequent grants. So we had the total ESSER, as they called it, money, the learning acceleration money, as well as the mental health money. I can tell you as of today, the mental health money of $45,000 has been spent. The learning acceleration amount awarded, there's $833 left. And from the total $966,793, there's $40,550 left. So from that total amount, whatever is left, we will be exhausting this summer. And again, those things are outlined on a subsequent slide for you because the ESSER II money needs to be gone and used by September of 2023, the end of September. Okay. A lot of the money has been used for our summer programming or after school programming. The last grant that we were awarded was the ESSER III grant for a total of $2,562,603. Again, there are multiple sub-grants within this grant, and this grant is required to be exhausted by September 30th of 2024. So we do have the upcoming school year and next summer to exhaust this grant. This grant, there is a substantial amount of money still remaining, about $1.9 million. So you'll see in the last two slides, or last two, slides of the document in front of you, what we have spent some of the money on so far. And then the last slide is what we are projecting to use the remainder of the money. Since there is a larger amount of money that from summer programming aspect, that we're not going to be able to exhaust all of it, we are going to use a big chunk of it towards our district technology needs. Are there any questions? Yes. Sorry, I'm not allowed to say that.
I am sitting right next to you.
Sure, go ahead.
Did I understand correctly that we're now going to have 4 library media specialists in the district, or was it at the elementary level, or are we still going to be sharing 2 among the 4 elementary schools?
We're still sharing.
Is there going to be a movement, hopefully in the future, toward having 1 for each school?
We can have those conversations, but right now, for next school year, no.
Okay, I'll always keep on.
I know. I don't blame you.
Go ahead, Mr. Sanfilippo.
I just wanted to say thank you. As an orchestra dad, I know my son plays the violin, and my daughter played the cello when she was here. It's very exciting for all the string parents. And I don't know how many people got to see the district-wide string event
I heard it was
last
amazing.
weekend. It was really very cool. So it's exciting stuff to hear. And then I guess one other question I had was in terms of like those evaluation tools, how often do we look at that? Is that something that we've done in the past, like 3 years, 5 years, 10
No.
years?
So to my knowledge, the district hasn't changed it since Governor Christie had put it into place. The version that we're currently using of Charlotte Danielson is from 2007, which is why we took the initiative to make a change, or to look to make a change.
And I guess the other thing is, you guys have like a rollout program for that, like for familiarization, like with like the staff and different things?
Yes, there'll be professional development that goes along with it. So as soon as we have a definitive answer as to which model we will be moving forward with, we'll come out with our professional development plan and communicate that to the teachers as well as for the evaluators, meaning all the administrators.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Mallon?
Thank you. I just want to thank all the presenters tonight for the hard work that you did, and also the administrators and teachers who contributed all of the data that you guys had to put together. Just a couple of things. Regarding the transition from OnCourse to Genesis.
Yes.
And apparently, I know you've been using Genesis for a while. Is this pretty much, in terms of expenditures, is this pretty much a push? Is it a savings? Is it initially more expensive because of some of the training that will have to be done?
So it's an additional cost in order to put in the employee portal. Not a tremendous cost. It's a savings in compared to what we were spending on OnCourse. In terms of the training that will go along with it, we can, within Genesis, develop the templates to mimic the way in which we want it to look. So we can very easily just take whatever template we're currently using in the other system and upload that into Genesis. The amount of training that would go along with that would just be a matter of exposing the teachers to which tabs to click on and where to fill in the information.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And regarding the ESSER funds, so the ESSER 3 is pretty much the only thing we have left has a large amount. Now, after next year, these monies are no longer available to, not just to us, but to any schools.
Correct.
And we've put a lot of programs in that are going to have to be continued, that we started with these ESSER funds, so now that they're going to have to be funded through the regular budget in years to come. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we can do this one of two ways. So some of the programming, yes, may have to be picked up into the regular budget, but a lot of what we can still cover some of it with Title I funds. It might not be as extravagant in terms of before school and after school programs that we're currently offering, but we would have to look in terms of what we can do for some of the summer programs, depending on what our Title I allocation would be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else with questions for Ms. McCann? Thank you, Ms. McCann. Awesome
Welcome.
presentation as always. Really informative. It's going to take me a few minutes to digest all this. Thanks a lot. And thanks to everyone who helped put these numbers together. Dr. Handerhan?
Thank you, Ms. Stites. I'd like to thank everyone that contributed to the budget. That is truly the budgeting process is a year-long one. We open the school year, and then one of the first things that happens is everybody gets a memo from Mr. Smythe and me that we're starting the process all over again. It is it's a long process. It requires, and this is the good part, it requires an awful lot of input. And with the input comes conversations, and with conversations becomes really refining and honing our programs so that we can really serve our students as best as we can, and also support our employees as best as we possibly can. So I would like to thank Ms. McCann. I'd like to thank Ms. Steiner, Ms. Bond for presenting this evening. I'd like to thank all of the administrators that are out there this evening. Your work did not go unnoticed tonight, and we are very grateful. I'd like to thank the public because it's great to have interest in this process, so thank you. Thank you, and of course to the Board of Education. And this evening is the start up. Really, it is an outgrowth of a year-long worth of curriculum and instruction committee meetings. So it's really nice to see a whole year worth of work being shared with the public for this next school year. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited for it. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting back to Ms. Stites.
Great. Prior to closing, we just want to have a quick reminder. Tomorrow night is our strategic planning meeting at the high school. Starting at what time?
Tomorrow is 7 p.m. and the RSVP is available on our website and social media. There's a nifty QR code, and it's certainly not too late to sign up for tomorrow's sessions. And we also have another session on March 6th. That has 3 individual targeted sessions. That evening on March 6th begins at 6 p.m. So tomorrow night is 7 p.m., high school auditorium with an overview, and then we'll have 2 sessions, one focusing on academics, the other is finance and facilities. And on Monday, March 6th, I can't believe I'm saying March 6th. Yes. March 6th, we will, once again, it will be at the high school, and we will be focusing on 3 particular areas: student life, student wellness, and communications. So please go to our website, check out the time frames, because we really wanted to be as flexible as possible so that we could capture as much community participation as possible. So thank you, Ms. Stites.
Super.
Dr. Henry, can you perhaps clarify why there's 2 of each meeting so that, it's not with the intent that you would attend both meetings?
No, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely. The Strategic Planning Task Force wanted to provide multiple opportunities for community members to not have to pick. In many times for community participation, people have to pick just one thing. And because we have 5 focus areas, we wanted to make sure that individuals can, if they choose, go to each focus group. So for example, tomorrow night, we will be hosting 2 session periods, if you will. We will have an academics and we will have a finance and facilities. Then, if someone signs up for the academics for the first session, that's terrific. They're welcome to also sign up for the finance and facilities as well, which will be in the second session. Or if they're not interested, they can certainly end their evening a little early. It's structured as they're facilitated sessions that we have been working with our consultant with guiding questions, just a few questions, and it's an opportunity for the community members to provide us with feedback that is garnered from the prepared questions from the consultant. So essentially, school district personnel and facilitators and the members of our task force, we will be listening. We are ears. So this is an opportunity for the community to respond to questions that our consultant have provided for us to elicit some good feedback. And it's a chance for us to listen. It's not a dialogue of exchange. It's an opportunity for the task force and school district personnel to listen to community members. And I think that's an important distinction. So thank you, Mr. Smythe.
Okay, well, it should be a great couple of meetings. Thank you to everybody for attending. At this point, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Second.
Ms. Giovanni? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, everybody have a great week. Hopefully, we'll see you later on in the week. Take care.